Welcome in, everybody, to another episode of On Isles Time. Brendan Yerkes, Cole Healy, and the Islanders keep on rolling. Road trip, a massive success. They go 6-1 on that road trip, come back home, pick up a win. But, starting to look like this team is for real and what we wanted to see before the season. And it's been a lot of fun to watch.
Definitely, yeah. They've surpassed, I think, both of our expectations. I know we both thought they'd kind of be in the mix for a playoff spot, but I mean, right now they're sitting second in the Metro. They have played a couple more games than some of the other teams, but you just watch the games and they look just everyone's on the same page and they just look like a much better team than I think anyone really expected them to be this year. So it's been a lot of fun to watch.
It's just the way they're playing, the speed and the intensity, and they're playing for the coach, and the coach is obviously, as Patrick Wash showed, ready to die for him after the Alexander Romanov incident in Dallas. But yeah, our last episode was the head of the second game of the road trip. Feels like a very eventful 2 weeks. That seems like a long time ago when that game happened. But they went into New Jersey. And it felt like a playoff game to me watching that game. Just the speed, the way it was going back and forth, the chances, and they found a way. They had a power play late. They had to kill off a lot of penalties. They gave up a power play goal early, which was kind of a tough break, but they rallied back. Ended up scoring on the power play in the last minute and a half. Unfortunately, gave up a goal with the empty net with 4 seconds left off a funky bounce. But in overtime, they found a way to get it done. And just that was seemingly the way the whole road trip went. That was kind of the way their motto, I guess, is just, finding a way. Like the games after that, they played Vegas, they played Utah. Those are two games that they probably shouldn't have won. But what did they do? They found a way. They got some bounces that they haven't gotten in years past. And in overtime, you know what? They now stand a chance with the players that they have. They're dynamic, the speed, and all of this combination together that they're winning games. And you know what? The biggest part is we said going into this road trip, all these teams that they're playing are legitimately good. This could have been the kill shot for the season very early on, but I don't think anybody even expected this. I would say maybe, a couple of wins, but 6 wins against all teams that are vying for playoff position and probably should be in playoff position. You can't complain about that. I mean, this has been a remarkable couple of weeks here.
Definitely, yeah. And like even Patrick Wild, he was asked if he thought they would be. I think it was before the Dallas game. He was asked if he thought they'd be 5-1 at this point with a road trip, and he said, "Yeah, like I'd be lying if I said yes." Like like the Rangers, whatever. Rangers struggling, but they're still, we see what they do on the road. They're still a solid team. You go into Jersey again, they're banged up. Pull out the win there, and then yeah, like you said, like once they actually got out west, every single team is in the mix. You got Colorado, I think they're still first in the league. And again, Wall said that was probably their best game of the road trip, and that's the game they lost. Um, yeah, huge win in Dallas, and then they beat Detroit, who was, I mean, they're top of the Atlantic at the time. I think I'm not sure if they're still up there now, but yeah, like it was just it's inspiring hockey, and that's again, I said it. I don't remember if I said it on the show. I know I've texted back and forth with some people about it. It feels like this could be like that 2018-19 season, that first year of Trotz. Just again, everyone kind of counted them out before the season even started, and I mean, here we are now. I think sixth in the league, second in the Metro. And it's just really, it's enjoyable to watch.
They needed to get some juice in UBS Arena, and we know the last couple of years have kind of gone stale, so fans haven't really come out and brought that noise and, brought it equal to the Coliseum. Obviously, nothing will compare, but it can get that loud and have that energy. And you figured after this road trip, after the beginning of the year, still some empty seats that, people would come back in and, show their support for the team and that success. And this weekend against St. Louis and Seattle definitely did. There was some juice in there. Obviously, Saturday, a tough game after a long time away, coming back home, early game, a lot of factors. But, they ended up battling. They just couldn't find goals. I mean, they got goalied a little bit. Binnington looked really good when the Isles lost 2-1. But the Sunday game as well, no goals, but, packed. And the fans wanted to show out and reward the team. And, I think it's just that excitement again that people are going to want to go. And I think, they have a big homestand now through Thanksgiving and the week after, and that the fans are going to continue to come and bring the energy. And I think it just, it goes hand in hand. The fans give energy to the players, but the players also, in a way, have to give energy to the fans. In the last couple of years, that hasn't happened. But just with the way things are going, people are juiced up, and you kind of felt that noise. I was there at the Seattle game yesterday, and again, no goals, but it got active towards the end in the overtime, and then in the shootout where they ended up winning. That you could feel that passion again, and UBS Arena can get to that level of noise. So that's been a good thing to see as we look to keep that going in the future.
Yeah, like even just watching it on TV, like it sounds loud. Like you can tell the difference. Yeah, like you said, the last couple years been kind of stale. It's they've been in that middle ground, right? Like no direction really, not good enough to like really make a deep run. And now again, we really still don't know what we have in terms of making a playoff run, but it's exciting. It's just again, we've said it a million times. It's an exciting time to be an Islander fan, and the team is giving fans a reason to go out, spend their money on on these tickets to go out to these games. And yeah, just having that crowd there, you can tell it makes a difference. And yeah, it's really just great to see that.
Yeah, and I think the last couple of years, every time something good would happen, they'd seemingly hurt themselves. You know, it's like, oh, the band's getting into it, bam, goal against or something. So just all the those little things that have happened, and it goes hand in hand with this. I don't want to see anybody talking about this team how they should be tanking and they should be losing games and get a higher draft pick. That's all nonsense to me. You have a good team, you're never going to be a bad team. Go out and win, and they're doing that. And you're not gonna. We got lucky, okay? We got very lucky to get this first pick and get Matthew Schaefer. You could do that for 10 years and lose and never get a first pick. I mean, the Ducks look great right now. The Anaheim Ducks. They never got the first pick. They've just made some smart draft choices that were a little unconventional at the time, and it's paying off for them. But they've never had the first overall pick in their history. They were bad for at least 5-6 years in this stretch they've been on. So it's possible. Like the Arizona Coyotes, they had to move. They never had the first pick. They were bad how many years? They were in the lottery. So it's a crapshoot. So you can't rely on that. And I know it's a good draft, and you want to maybe have a top 10 pick, but that's all nonsense. You have a good enough team, a same team that's been in the playoff race the last couple of years. They were never going to be as bad as last year, and now it's good to see them playing NHL hockey of today, inspiring hockey, and especially winning games. And, like I said, we're building towards the future. And then you could take this team without having to take a dip down and just continuously swap out younger players and prospects and then have consistent success through the years.
Yeah, like Matthew Darr said when he was hired, he wants to focus on the future, still build for the future. But that doesn't mean he doesn't want to win now. Like you got Barzal who's 28, Horvat's 30. Like they're both in their primes right now, right? Ilya Sorokin is 30. Like you still have the pieces now, and there's no point in just wasting these years of these guys, right? Like they're just going to keep getting older. Having Schaefer obviously really extends the window because now free agency guys are going to see how good Schaefer is now, right? They're going to want to be a part of this because again, obviously the forward group is on the older end. Having 3 first-round picks this past year, this team is building for the future. It's capable of doing something down the line. But as we're seeing right now, they're also capable of playing good hockey right now. So yeah, there's really no point in wasting the prime years of Barzal and Horvat, Sorokin. And yeah, like there's like you touched on it. Some people want to tank, or like they're like, oh yeah, it's nice, but at the same time, it's not as nice. They want a good pick. It's all the people. I think I said this to you. Like I texted you about it. It's all the people who grew up playing franchise mode, right? You're playing franchise mode on NHL. Yeah, you make your team awful. You trade everyone, get a million picks, right? It's a video game. That is not how things work in real life. Detroit, like they had Moritz Seider, I think he was like the 6th pick. Lucas Raymond, I think was 5th. Like they haven't made the playoffs, I think, since 2016. And look at them, like yeah, they've been decent, but they haven't made the playoffs. I know they came close. I think it was 24 was it was like those crazy games at the end of the year. But yeah, like doing bad does not guarantee anything. All these draft picks are just lottery tickets. Like you said, we got incredibly lucky being able to get Schaefer, but we have some of the pieces now. So you might as well build towards that, make some runs, try to make a run now, and that looks great for, again, like I said, for free agents. You give them something to look forward to, give them a reason to sign here, and it just changes the whole culture. So yeah, I'm with you. I don't understand why some people don't want to make the playoffs every year. And also, just you give Matthew Schaefer an opportunity to play playoff games as an 18-year-old, still on his entry-level deal, making under $1 million against the cap. Like that experience is just so important, and I'd much rather have that than like a 7th overall pick.
And that's what makes it different compared to getting lucky. Like he's on a team that's decent. A lot of these first overall picks get thrown into the fire. Like look at Bedard last year. He was miserable on that Blackhawks team that wasn't winning games. Now Schaefer's being able to play, third pairing with established guys that are not horrible. I mean, I know people have their opinions, but they're solid and they're all playing pretty well together right now. So it lets him ease into the NHL, and that's probably why he has that success because he's comfortable and not thrown into the fire. So there's no reason to tear it all down because the prospects that they have are coming and will fill those spots. But the argument is that the Islanders will never be able to become a Stanley Cup level team without getting that second top prospect. Well, you have no idea. It's like, all right, 20 years ago, Ovechkin had Backstrom, and Crosby had Malkin, and they've won, and Taves had Kane, and these things have worked out. But you don't need to have the two. I mean, it helps. It makes it easier. Those teams got extremely lucky again in a lottery back-to-back years in those drafts to be in the top three and be able to get those guys. There's no guarantee that that's going to happen. And yeah, it would help your odds of being good long term, but you also have to make smart draft picks wherever you are. You have the one. Some teams don't even have the one. That's the first step. Then in other ways, you could try to make a trade or sign a free agent or just have to develop your prospects nicely. But, that's the big argument I've seen for the tank, that they need that second prospect. But you know what? That's a issue you'll cross when you get to it. Right now, you build it as many prospects as you can and see what you can do from there.
Yeah, and also just won't I feel like everyone's just forgetting about Cole Eiserman. Like he's again, he like there was a time where there was a conversation about whether him or Celebrini was going to go first overall. I think kind of early that season was kind of a lot of people were saying Celebrini won, Eiserman too, but like we were able to get him at 20. Like, we're again easily the best goal scorer in that draft. I said the best pure goal scorer. There's some concerns about the rest of his play, but again, he's been at BU working with Jay Pandolfo, and he's made huge strides away from the puck. And like he could be that secondary guy. I feel like a lot of people are just forgetting about that.
Yeah, and again, like it's also good to have a lot of good prospects and then one top forward instead of putting all your eggs in one basket. I mean, look at Edmonton. They have the two guys. They haven't been able to get it done. They have McDavid and Draisaitl, and who else? So it helps to have the two top guys, but you could win a Stanley Cup without having that. And I think like Vegas is a good example of that. Or if you look, I mean, I know Colorado has the forward and the D. They have McKinnon and McCarr, but it's there's many different ways to win a Stanley Cup now. It's not just having the top players. This is not the NBA. And again, if there's a prospect that they really want to go and get, they have the extra assets. They have the extra Colorado first to potentially move up in the draft and do that if they want to. But again, these are all later issues. But it goes back to the team is winning, and that's what we want to see. And I think the more games they win, it's proving people to come on and join in on it because they're winning these games and they're proving it's for real. They've played 23 games now, like you said. That's a large enough sample size to not just be a little win streak. I mean, again, they're going to have some dips here and there. They're not going to just win all season, but they're in the right place. They're in playoff position, and throughout this year, they're going to be in it. And a playoff series would be a lot of fun to hopefully not play against Carolina, but just to get in and, whatever way they can. And, it's different. Like I said, it's not like the same team scrapping just to get in and lose. This is a team that's building towards something that if they make the playoffs, it's a success and not just, oh, here we go, we're going to lose again. Maybe they do lose, but you know what? Right now, it's fun. Everyone's having fun and everyone is playing really well for the most part, which I think we should get into it. I think our first player we want to discuss is Max Shabanov coming back from his mystery injury. And, I was a little concerned that, he's small. He came back first game, seemed a little shaky, but the last couple of games, he's really settled in. They bumped him up to the third line, and he looks like he could really be an impact player in the NHL. We see that burst of speed, his hands creating chances, and those 2 goals in Detroit were a thing of beauty. So he's proving that he could be a long-term piece of success for this Islanders team.
Yeah, I know you said the size was a little bit of a concern, right? I think it was it was the Detroit game. It was like right at the end. I feel like he got hit early on in the game, and then like towards the end when Tony DeAngelo ended up fighting Marco Casper, like it was off the Shabanov hit, right? But every time he just gets right back up. He knows he's small, but yeah, like when you're watching, like he really, outside of when he's getting hit, he doesn't play small, and that's what Wall was saying at a training camp. Yeah, he's looked very comfortable. It's good to. I believe it was the Ottawa game was when he last played. So yeah, it was about 2 or 3 weeks he was out of the lineup. And then yeah, first game he wasn't fully back. Then in Dallas he looked back to normal. And then yeah, Detroit obviously had that second goal was beautiful. I mean even the first goal they tried to set play off the draw right away. Didn't there was a good chance, didn't score. And then they just go right back, do it again. Richie wins the draw to Shabanov. He just rips it. Um, he's looked very good. And again, I believe he's what, 23 years old, 24 years old.
Yeah, still young. Was 25, but still young. He just turned 25. But I just like, he had the 2 goals and the assist in that game against Detroit was a +4, and he hasn't really scored in the other games. He only has 6 points, 3 and 3 in the 11 games he's played so far. So still not like crazy numbers, but again for the adjustment year, that's a good thing to see. And I know half the points coming in that one game, but he's playing the right way and he's generating, like you said, like the Seattle game, that overtime, drawing the penalty. He fakes to Schaefer, draws the 2
I was
defenders
just
towards
about
Schaefer,
to add
and
that.
then he
Yeah.
cuts to the net, draws a penalty. Obviously, not enough time on the clock to really be able to do something with that power play, but that's what he brings to the table. He's a skilled offensive player. So I feel like having him on the fourth line, which we'll talk more about Richie and that line later, they should be higher up. It's just they're kind of in a tough spot position wise right now. But those two are kind of becoming a nice duo working well together, but it's just the speed and the skill, and that's what he brings to the table, and that's why they signed him here to bring that new element in.
Yeah, and yeah, like just going back to that Seattle overtime. That's also more like kind of a Schaefer point too. Like you got Shabanov coming out. Yeah, like you said, he just fakes that drop pass to Schaefer. Both guys bite on it because they everyone knows how good Schaefer is. Again, 23 games into his career, and he's already getting that respect from the other team. I know someone tweeted about it. And then yeah, there you go. You see Shabanov, and he almost finishes the chance too. He goes to his backhand, he gets hooked or slashed, whatever it was. But like he has the ability to finish on those chances. And yeah, I mean, I was hoping to see him in the shootout. I was not happy when they sent Palmieri after over Shabanov. I mean, he Palmieri shut me
Well,
up pretty quick
he
with that goal.
scored.
Yeah,
They were. I don't know how they won that shootout. Speaking of, I mean, down by a goal, and I'm like, oh well, there's another one. They're gonna lose a 0-0 game with Lane Lambert doing Lane Lambert things, playing for the point. He did for the whole third period. They somehow survived, and then the Islanders came back from down in the shootout. The Horvat goal was weird because the crowd was like confused because they didn't really signal and they didn't play the horn, which was odd. But
yeah,
um, yeah, then Palmieri scores. But yeah, this team, like the shootouts haven't been great. I mean, it was Riddick, of course, this time that wins it. So not with Ilya in net. But the overtime element has been so different just because they've won in all these types of ways. Obviously the game against New Jersey, they scored a Barzell, a nice give and go play with Drouin, who's been much improved. Jonathan Drouin, really strong in this road trip. Then the Pajot one, the Islanders take a penalty in overtime. You have to think for sure this game's over. They're going to lose, give up another power play goal. JG Pajot takes it right off the draw, cuts to the net, and just rips it top corner. That was probably the most stunning of all of them.
yeah,
And then the Utah game, I mean, you're seeing that Schaefer Barzell connection, how Barzell and Schaefer make each other better. Barzell fakes the shot to the net, draws the defender off, goaltender's off his angle, and then Schaefer rips it home, first overtime winner, youngest in NHL history. So it's just they're winning these games, and it's just so skillful that we have these guys that are kind of being unleashed after being kind of like held in for the last couple of years, and you know, it's everybody that's contributing.
yeah, yeah. It's just full team efforts, and again, that's what you want to see. That's what's going to win in the playoffs. So again, this is just the first steps, but it's very, very promising looking so far.
Right, they're buying into what Patrick was saying. So we were kind of a little half in, half out on Waugh this year, but he really cares about his players, and they really play hard for him. So that's what you want to see. Which I know. Speaking of, he's the whole Alexander Romanov, Mikko Rantanen thing, which I can't even believe Mikko Rantanen didn't get a hearing because
No,
some Stars fans have been frustrating me on Twitter, saying that Mayfield pushed him uh, into Romanov, which is all right. He bumped him a little bit, but that doesn't make you, as you're falling, stick your arms out to, shove somebody. I get sticking your arms out to, plant your fall, but that's not what it looked like at all to me. I can't. Maybe they weren't going to suspend him because he's not really a repeat offender, but to not even give him a hearing is pretty insane. But then he took another one. He's out for Long Island as he rammed Matt Coronado the other night, so he's suspended for a game. But yeah, that was ridiculous. The Islanders find a way to hold on in that game in Dallas with the goaltender interference at the end, which I think was absolutely the right call. Robertson was already going into the crease. His stick hits Riddick first, and then he ends up getting bumped into Riddick and ends up being the right call. The Islanders win. People weren't happy about it. So then on the same side of the coin, on Saturday when the Islanders might have tied it against St. Louis, I also agreed that that was no goal. I didn't think that was a big deal that they waved it off. Frustrating, yes, but I think both of those were the right call. Palmieri went in on his own, barely tapped Bennington, didn't hit him much, and then but again, going in the crease on your own, you're going to get bumped into the goalie. Like you can't do that. That's just how it is. So Yeah, lots of drama this week. I mean, just drama the whole road trip and then coming home. Lots of stuff going on.
Yeah. Again, exciting hockey. When was the last time we were able to
That's what we
say
want
this
to
about the
see.
Islanders? So yeah, I agree. The call in Dallas was definitely the right call with no goal there. Dallas tying it up, and then again I believe they called it no goal on the ice, and pretty decisively. Yeah, upheld that, and then yeah, St. Louis. At first, I was a little upset, and then they showed that other angle where you could see Palmieri in there before any contact, like he was not getting out of the way. So yeah, that was unfortunately the right call as well. When was the last time I saw consistency from the officials
I
on
know.
reviews? It's been who knows? I don't know how long it's been, but hey, that's maybe they're making a positive direction. Maybe it's a coincidence. We'll see. But yeah, no, I agree. Definitely, they're both the right calls. I liked what I saw in that St. Louis game towards the end, at least not so much the first two periods. They made a good push, but I mean, yeah, you gotta play a full 60 minutes if you want to win.
Yeah.
Binnington also played pretty good. He had that nice
I mean, you
save on
can't win
goal.
every game, so it's just tough. But yeah,
Yeah.
need a little more in that one. But back to individual players. We talked about Shabanov and how he's kind of built a good connection with Richie, who I think was doing a lot of the right things. But like, do we want him playing in the fourth line? Is he better suited in the AHL, getting top 6 minutes? He hasn't scored, and then he had that great give and go play with Duclair in that Dallas game to get the Islanders on the board, start the scoring, and I think from there he's kind of been unleashed a little bit. He scored in Detroit, so that's been good to see him kind of find the back of the net a little bit. But he's been playing really well, and you got to think that with power play minutes and everything that's coming for him, they got bumped up to line three. That the goal scoring is going to come. And again, if it takes a little bit longer than usual, because we can't all be impatient, then that's okay. And but he's been doing the right things defensively, especially, which is the most important part.
Yeah, I believe it was Bo Horvat the other day was just talking about how smart of a player he is. And again, that's something we heard, after the Nelson trade last year. You hear about how smart Cal Ritchie is, both with and without the puck. And when he gets called up, or even like training camp, was talking about it. And he finally gets called up, and he's not playing a ton of minutes, right? He's not getting those top 6 minutes that you would hope he's getting. But definitely having him with Shabanov on the fourth line, it's not the fourth line of 10 years ago. It's not a typical fully checking line like only defense. Like he's being with Shabanov there is giving him that opportunity to still play that offensive game. Again, like in Detroit, they both had multiple points, both had goals, so he's having that freedom, but he has the defensive IQ, I guess, to still, for now at least, in the bottom six, you can throw him out there in the defensive zone. And as he gets more comfortable with the NHL, as he adjusts more to the NHL game, we'll see him move up. And then, now with JG Pajot being hurt, I believe they said he's week to week now. He's kind of found he fits right into that third line center spot, and I think that's a perfect spot for him. I know we've talked about how going into the year we want to move Pajot at the deadline, right? Not obviously now things might be different because team's playing great, but going into the year, the hope was just move Pajot, put Richie in that third line spot, kind of let him settle in. I think it's a great spot for him because he's still young. It's only 7 games last year. I don't know what he's up to now this year, but gives him that mix where he's not being relied on as a top 6 guy quite yet, but he's still getting those. He's still getting plenty of opportunities, and yeah, I mean he really has looked so much more comfortable as of late, and I think being on the third line now for the foreseeable future, it'll just continue to help him out there.
Yeah, it's big. It's big. We definitely said that for a while, and now that's why they all got bumped up that injury. So he's going to play that role that we wanted, and he's going to get more minutes with that. So you got to hope the scoring is going to come. He's only got 2 goals and an assist, like I said, and he's already played 13 games. Doesn't seem like that many, but doing the right things are more important. And then you got to know the goal scoring is going to come after that. So Watt trust him, which is important. He's building that chemistry with Shabanov, and then as they play together more and more, we'll hope that they could keep building that chemistry and scoring some goals. But back on Pajot a minute, I know we've discussed the trade, like you said, but I think that as good as they may be and as well as they may be playing, I feel like they just have to trade him. Just he's having another career type season. If he comes back healthy and continues to do that, there's a team that feels like they could win the Stanley Cup this year that is going to need him. And yeah, while it's going to be hurtful to the room to trade away, a very well liked guy who's played very well this year. for, a team that just, is going to be in the playoff race. You usually don't want to sell off if you're in that position, but I think for the long-term future of contending, you have to maximize his value. And I don't think that, you're going to be able to re-sign him for a reasonable deal because he's 33, but I think a team would give him maybe a 3 or 4 year deal that's close to winning that could use his services. And I feel like with the prospects the Islanders have, that doesn't really fit into their long-term future. They already kind of made that mistake with Romanov with the amount of lefty that they have in the system, drafting obviously Schaefer, Aitchison, also a left-handed defenseman, George there, but they're not all going to fit in that spot. So I think Pageau probably should get traded regardless, as tough as it will be to that room, that thinks that they can go on a run. But if you're the Islanders, you're thinking you can get in the playoffs and maybe make some noise, but you're not looking to win the Stanley Cup this year. So I think Darch is going to have to make that tough decision and make that call to trade Pageau.
Absolutely, yeah. I mean, it's going to be a tough decision. He's been a great Islander. Obviously, the goal scoring dipped after that, that wrist surgery early on in his Isles tenure. But again, like Ritchie is looking like he's a perfect fit for that spot. If they do end up trading him, then again, you're going to get some solid assets. The center market is very bare right now, and then come deadline time, so many teams looking to make that deep run are going to be looking for a center. Obviously Florida's got Barkov out for the year, or it was assumed for the year. I think he's been skating already, which is insane. So we'll see what happens with him. But yeah, I mean, if he still is out around the deadline and still going to be out for a little bit, again, Pageau obviously isn't going to bring the same offense that Alex Barkov does, but defensively, he's very solid defensively. He plays all situations. That's a guy that so many teams are going to be looking to acquire. So he'd be huge for Florida, and really any team is going to get a great piece. He always steps up in the playoffs too. And again, you're looking to make a run. You need guys like that. So as much as I love Pageau, he's been a great fit on this team. I think you still have to move him. You have Ritchie ready to take his spot. Again, building for the future while still worrying about competing right now. You have Cal Ritchie ready to cement his spot in the lineup.
Right.
And then, moving Pageau would allow him to do that. And then
especially with having so many players too, right? Like, they could move Cizikas back to center, who I've wanted out of the lineup, but you still have him on your team. He can go back to center in that fourth line spot, and that allows, Siplikov to get in, who's been kind of on the outside looking in, where, I think he's had some good moments lately, Siplikov, but there's so many guys, and I feel like he's kind of down on Waz's list, and you don't really know where to put him. So it's kind of a tough thing with it all clogged up. But the injuries that are part of the game are going to make these things happen. Like we're looking at the defense right now with Romanov out 5 to 6 months, probably most of the season. We're not really expecting him to be back, with that, and somebody's going to have to step up. They've had the Boquist slide in. He's been solid so far. They just sent Marshall Warren back down, so maybe they're going to work on a trade to get somebody in here, or they want Warren probably playing more minutes instead of just being the seventh D man. So we're gonna have to see what they do with that. But as far as the D overall, I mean, Schaefer's been Schaefer. The scoring's dipped a little bit, but you had to expect that. Defenseman's not going to score every single game or get a point every single game, but still playing extremely well, great defensively, and contributing to offense, making plays happen, and but the defense has been continuously getting better, and not that it was bad, but that's been the best part. But overall, I just think the D's been great. The new pairs have been working well, but I think especially Pelech and Pulock having just resurgences. They've both looked really, really good. Especially Pulock, because I think people were more concerned about him early on. Pelech has been, I think, a little bit better, a little bit steadier the last few years, but those two guys really shutting things down and contributing at both ends of the ice.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think Pulock has Pulock doesn't have a goal yet. I mean, we saw yesterday he was like 103.2 or something. It was the hardest shot by an Islander since they started tracking it. And just just a little fun fact there. But yeah, he's been huge. And again, I'm a big Ryan Pulock fan. I've got his Fish from Reverse Retro. Love the guy. I mean those first 3 games, those 3 losses, he was brutal. And then he's still struggling for the first, I'd say 2 weeks. But he really has looked so much better. And you keep him with Pelech, they're looking like themselves again. And really, it's been huge. Because obviously, I think Schaefer played 27 minutes both games of the St. Louis and Seattle back to back. But it's good to know that you can throw Pelech and Pulock out there, and you don't have to worry. You don't need Schaefer to be the guy all the time, even though he's still gonna be given that chance. He's still gonna be given that opportunity. You don't have to fully rely on him. You can throw Pelech and Pulock out there just to be the players that they're being paid to be. They're both taking up a decent chunk of the cap. And I know there's a lot of trade talk this past summer. There's sure there's gonna be the same trade talk this upcoming offseason about moving one of them. But right now, I mean, they're playing like they want to stay. They're playing like the $5-6 million defenseman that they're being paid to be.
And that helps the trade talks too, that they're
Yeah.
playing better. And I think if anybody was to go, it's probably Pelech just because he's on that left side. So, opening up a spot for somebody, he would probably be the one to go, especially with the right side so thin and Pollock doing it. But just looking at his stats over the past few years, like I took a look the other day. I know stats don't tell the whole story, but like they're actually like surprisingly like better than you would think for what you've heard about Pollock the last couple of years. Like last year, he had 23 points in 74 games, but he's been like a positive every single year of his career, except 2017-18, which the Islanders were like the last in the league in goal differential. So he's had strong years, and this year he's already got 9 assists in 23 games. He had 18 all of last year, and he did have 5 goals last year. He's actually had 5 goals the last 4 years. So we'll see if he can reach that. Still not scoring one yet, but it's less about that and more about the defensive ability because you feel like you would see these plays where the P&P would kind of get lost or turnovers, and they weren't strong defensively, which is what their game was first. Even though Pulla contributes offensively a little bit more than Pelech, but they're shutting things down and they just they look like they're moving better. And I think that's the biggest thing is the skating is just looks improved. So whatever they've been doing has been working, and that's been a big part of this team's success. Because remember, we said going in they have a lot of depth on offense and a lot of middle sixers, as we made that joke before. But the D was the concern, especially that right side. But Pollock kind of regaining form to what the best version of himself again. Even though he's been just okay the last few years, has been a big reason why this team is winning, and especially have this success on the road trip.
And talking about that offense, Pullock's doing good, solid assist wise, right? But again, part of that is you need the forwards to finish. And Matt Barzal, especially yesterday, he was just flying. I mean, he was all over the place. Again, obviously it was 0-0 going into the shootout, but he looked great. And really, these last couple of games, he's been his legs are moving. Like he's looked very good. And yeah, I mean, like I know we've talked about that duo of him and Schaefer on the power play. I mean, you have two elite offensive talents there that other teams have to worry about, and then that's such a big part. 'Cause again, I feel like they're in past years, obviously getting Horvat helped, but when it was mainly Barzal was the true threat, teams could just worry about him, maybe double team him or whatever, and then it gives him less opportunity. But now again, having Schaefer and even just with Horvat having the year that he's having, I believe he's second now in goals. Maybe he's still tied for first. I don't know right now. I know the other day he was tied for first with Morgan Geekie. And yeah, just having all that high end offensive talent, these other teams have to worry about multiple guys. It's not just Barzal anymore. So obviously, Schaefer's been as good as he has been, which is huge. But it's not only huge for him; it's huge for Barzal, it's huge for Horvat, giving them all opportunities, and that's allowed them to play as well as they have so far this year.
Yeah, and it's good that, Barzal and Horvat don't have to be together to drive success, and then you still get to put them together on the power play. So you kind of get the best of both worlds. They'll be able to do their thing on the man advantage, but then they don't have to be glued together in order to create offense. And I think you're right, just Barzal being healthy and out there flying, and, the other guys that have been brought in kind of contributed to that. Especially like Emil Heineman, like we talked about. He started the scoring on the road trip 3 games in a row, and he's just all over the ice, flying with his speed. He's making plays, obviously scoring goals. Physically, he's everywhere, and been a nice boost, and one more away from scoring 10 already on the season. So that's been a great sight to see. But I think one more thing we'll talk about before we wrap it up: the goaltending. Is Ilya Sorokin back? I think we could say it,
I
right?
think he's back.
Safe to say he's back. He had 2 shutouts to each ends of the road trip to get things started against the Rangers, which we talked about in our last episode as we recorded before the Devils game, and then the last one in Detroit, another strong performance. So 2 5-0 shutouts, pretty crazy, both the same score, but 2 big games from him, and overall just making some big saves, keeping them in a lot of these games. And David Riddick too has been quite the surprise because we thought he'd be solid, but he's been, I think, better than we expected coming in. There was a little bit of concern with his age and his play the last couple of seasons. We figured he'd just be solid, but shutout last night against Seattle. But overall, just making saves, winning games. The Dallas one was huge. He came up big in that game. Somehow the Islanders were able to win. with all the controversy, and he was fired up with that one too. But the goaltending has been also a key reason why the Islanders are winning. And as we said, if Sorokin plays well, they'll win. If he doesn't, they'll lose. And now, having that reliable backup like Riddick is much needed, especially with the Olympics coming, especially with how cramped the schedule is and is going to be the next couple months. They need him. They need both of them, and they've been getting the job done.
Yeah, I mean, I think they're now 4-0 on the second half of back-to-backs this year. And this is a year where I don't know the exact numbers. Like it might be like 12 back-to-backs. I know like every team has a ton because they have the Olympic break this year, so they gotta fit the rest of the games in at a normal time. But yeah, like that's so big being able to have two goalies. I know like that first year under Trotz, I think they might have lost maybe one back end of a back-to-back, and then this year it's looking similar again. Going back to the comparison to the 18-19 season, being able to have two goalies that you can count on is just so big for this team. We had it for so long. Whether Halak, Greiss, Leonard Greiss, Greiss Varlamov, whatever the case was, then obviously you have Sorokin, Varlamov. Being able to have two guys that you can rely on it's huge for this team, especially this year with all the back-to-backs. Sorokin has looked great ever since the goalie coach changed. So I don't know if that's just coincidence, him finding his game, or if it actually has to do with the coaching change. And then Riddick, early on, or even we were talking about in the preseason, we're like, okay, yeah, he might be a problem. And then he gets a couple wins early on, like that. I know he played that Detroit game, the whatever it was, 8-1, 7-1. Looked decent in there. And then, but yeah, recently he's been great. He looked great in Dallas, made some huge saves, and then getting that shutout against Seattle, shutting them down outside of that one goal in the shootout. It's big save. Dave is back, and Ilya Sorokin is back.
I know, we need it. It's great. Sorokin putting the team on his back and just everybody doing their job. A couple guys probably want more from. Simon Holmstrom's had a tough go the last couple of games, but got to think he'll find it again. And just happy to see them win. Maybe expecting a dip soon, but a big homestand, another chance to stockpile points, because this year's unlike any other year. They say if you're in a playoff spot at American Thanksgiving, I don't know what the exact percentage is, but this is kind of where you see where teams are, what they are, if they're going to be in the playoffs, if they're going to be out, or if they're kind of going to be in the mix. And this year is completely different because the Eastern Conference, the top team and the bottom team, which is somehow still Buffalo, only a 6-point difference. So I was looking at Buffalo last night. They're like 9-9-4. They're 500. They're NHL 500, and they're last place in the Eastern Conference. So the Islanders, as great as this is, a bad few games, they could find themselves at the bottom of the division, bottom of the conference, and be out of a playoff spot again. So they just got to keep stockpiling points and hope that some of these other teams can start to tumble down a little bit, because the only, I guess, downside of the Islanders' big wins on the road trip is that there weren't many Eastern Conference teams on the schedule, at least after the first two, which happened a while ago. So they just got to keep winning, stay in this thing, and have when they lose, just bounce back and win the next one. It's going to happen. You're not going to win every single game, but just continue to play this brand of hockey, and they will have a lot of success.
Definitely, yeah. And just going back to that stat about American Thanksgiving, I think last year was either 11 or 12 of the teams in a playoff spot on Thanksgiving ended up making it. So yeah, if they can stay second, third in the Metro, like that would obviously be huge. Again, still plenty of season to go. Still got to keep winning, keep that up. Injuries happen, guys struggle. You never know what's gonna happen. But again, it's been really, really promising so far. I'm liking what we're seeing. So yeah, they keep that up, and this team, looking like they won't play Carolina. I know you mentioned that earlier. Seems like against anyone besides Carolina, they got a shot to move on. And then once you're in the playoffs, you never know what's gonna happen.
We just need UBS Arena ready to go, fired up, playoffs with some juice. Not we stumbled in. Like, let's get a strong, we made the playoffs, and get people excited. I think that's going to wrap it up for this episode of On Isles Time. Thank you so much for tuning in. Make sure to check us out on social media at On Isles Time, ONISLESTIME, on Instagram, TikTok, and X. Also, make sure to subscribe to our YouTube channel at On Isles Time. Listen to the podcast on Spotify and Apple Podcasts, On Isles Time. For Brendan Yerkes and Cole Healy, thank you so much for tuning in. Let's hope the Islanders keep rolling on their new homestand and stockpile some more points. So thanks for tuning in to On Isles Time.